Crash and burn.
Hey everybody. So tonight I'm looking to discuss... Oh fuck. I don't know when the record came out. I am looking to discuss Bush's Razorblade Suitcase. This was released, I'm going to say, in 1996. I'm probably wrong. The Thing has probably already come up and corrected me. But yeah, I mean, this is one of those records where it's like when this record came out, Nirvana's influence, Nirvana's fingerprints were all over the world of music. And wow, Bush really took no issue with sort of aping their sound so significantly on this record. But then the one thing that I like is usually, well, at least what I found, is when one band attempts to copy another band, it's usually because the band that they're attempting to copy is greater than their band is. And I can't really say that about Gavin Rossdale and company. I also really liked his performance in Constantine too. But this record feels more like, yes, they've definitely using a bunch of things from Nirvana's toolbox. That's for sure. There is no doubt about it that Nirvana's influence is all over this record. But at the same time, Bush is such a strong band, or at least they are at this point, that despite the fact that there are very obvious Nirvana-like leanings, this still sounds like a Bush record. You know what I mean? I mean, yes, the Nirvana influence it's unmistakable. I mean, there are like the choruses from so many of these songs, like from Personal Holloway to Greedy Fly, Insect Can, History, A Tendency to Start Fires. Those are my favorite songs, and it is because they sort of have that heavy grunge vibe. And I hate the word grunge because I know that the word grunge actually has nothing to do with the world of punk rock. All the grunge bands, all of them, were just punk bands. And it was the media, the mainstream, the access media, which we now refer to as the dinosaur media, they were the ones who invented the term grunge and then started selling that to advertisers. And the advertisers started selling it to the big box stores, like, you know, the Walmarts and the Kmarts, and at that point the Searses of the world. And they started, like, they'd have a grunge section in their Sears their wish book, where it'd show like ripped jeans and a plaid top, so you too can achieve the grunge look. I always thought that was kind of dumb. This was just punk. But see, with bands like Bush were never punk. They were never trying to be punk. They weren't gonna be punk. They had no intention of ever, like I said, aspiring to anything to do with the world of punk rock. So you could almost argue that this record is a grunge record, because it's made by a band who has no interest in punk rock. And of course, the term grunge, again, has nothing to do with the world of punk rock. It was a media thing. So maybe this is a proper grunge record that just happens to ape Nirvana's sound. I mean, I do like how, like I said, regardless of the Nirvana influence, they are carving out their own path here. Razorblade Suitcase, this record is absolutely killer. Except for, I found, with the shifts in energy and how the loud, quiet dynamic happens a little too much on too many of these songs. Like Cold Contagious, Mouth, Straight, No Chaser, Synapses, Communicator. These songs, they're cool songs. They help to sort of propel the record forward. But at the same time, there's that loud, quiet, sort of like Metallica's One dynamic too much at play here with these songs. I find that, like, the first half is super quiet, and the second half is really up and energized and sort of all grungy and crazy. So had I fallen in love with that track, well, all of these tracks, I'd find myself having to sort of skip in order to enjoy them, because I didn't love the first chunk, or maybe I didn't love the second chunk. Whereas with the tracks that I love, like Personal Holloway again, Greedy Fly, Insect Can, and then A Tendency to Start Fires, those songs, they're consistent from start to finish. They're just like hard and heavy, I guess is the best way to describe those songs. Is they're not really pulling any punches. There are no quiet parts. There's no quiet bridges. There's no quiet breakdowns. It's just the first 40 seconds of the song is the entire song. And that's why I love those songs so much, is because on one hand, they do remind me a lot of the strongest elements of Nirvana, but then at the same time, I really love Gavin's voice, and I like what Bush was going for. And like I said a minute ago, how nevertheless, regardless of how they were very obviously influenced by Nirvana, they were still able to do their own thing with these songs, to the point where it doesn't just feel like this is a straight Nirvana clone. Like, oh, check us out. We're trying to make some money off the Kurt Cobain thing. Because that was never the case here. I mean, Bone Driven, for example. Bone Driven reminds me of Glycerin off their first record. So much. So it's like they're almost, in a way, borrowing from themselves, too. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're borrowing from themselves, which is very cool, because then when it seems like they're borrowing from other bands, it's not such a it's not such a crime anymore. Because there is nothing worse than, like, when a band just attempts to ape what the band next to them is doing because that band's making more money or whatever. It's embarrassing. But yes, and then we can talk about Razorblade Suitcase in addition, because there are 4 extra songs on there. Old is absolutely amazing. Broken TV is really fun. Sleeper, Jesus Christ, that is quite possibly the most Nirvana song on this record, but nevertheless, it kicks ass. And the same with Bubbles. Bubbles is a really great track too, and I do kind of feel like those 4 songs that are tossed in on the in addition version of Razorblade Suitcase, they actually would have fit in the record better than I found some of the songs, like with Straight No Chaser, Communicator, Synapse, Cold Contagious. They're cool songs, and like I said a few minutes ago, they are cool and they help to propel the record forward. But then once they released in addition, those 4 additional songs I feel like would have fit in better on the original release of the record, and maybe they could have had tracks like Cold Contagious put out through the in addition version, because I found those songs like Cold Contagious to be less great than a track like Old, which was one of the bonus songs that the in addition version had. Yeah, so I think I'm going to leave it there. So thank you so much for hanging out with me while I discuss Bush's, I said 1996 record, Razorblade Suitcase, as well as Razorblade Suitcase in addition. Like always, if you like this review or you love this records, don't forget to go and do something nice for somebody. But most importantly, like always, never forget this. If you've made it this far, never forget that the world is a way better place because you are in it. I'm getting out of here because it's really muggy. This is the way summer is supposed to be. Taking off. Have a good night.